Let's talk about Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Also, Disney, please make me a Chubby shoulder plush. I want one.
Hi there! I'm Madison and welcome to Mad's Tea Party. So this is gonna be a new series where I just kind of talk about a certain ride, give my opinions on that ride. Did anybody ask? No. And today I'm going with a ride that's a bit newer. It's a bit of a controversial ride, so I thought I would go ahead and give my take on it. And it's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now this ride isn't brand new. It came out last year. It's 2021 finally. I figured I would talk about it anyway because there haven't really been any new rides because COVID. I wouldn't necessarily call this series a full review of the rides necessarily, just because most of them have been out for years. Nobody's looking for a review of a ride that came out in the 1970s. But for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, this will probably be a bit more of a review because not that many people have been to Disney World since it opened. But I am a little bit late to the party and I know that, so it's not a full review. It's just kind of an opinion, hot take kind of thing, I don't really know. So in case you just know nothing about the Disney parks community and the inner workings of Disney World, which is kind of a really specific subject to know a lot about, so I wouldn't blame you if you don't. But basically, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is a ride that opened in 2020. It's super cute, super fun, but it's kind of polarizing. People either really love it or really hate it. And I kind of fall exactly in the middle. So Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is a ride at Hollywood Studios at Disney World in Florida. It opened in, I think, March of 2020, and it's a super fun, super cute ride, but it's mostly controversial because it replaced the Great Movie Ride, which was one of the opening iconic attractions of Hollywood Studios, then MGM Studios, but you know. And comparing Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway to the Great Movie Ride has made a lot of people dislike the ride just because of what it replaced. Getting onto social media and looking through the Disney Parks community, you can see people on both sides. There's fan accounts dedicated to Runaway Railway, and they love it so much, they think it's the best ride, and then you also can find accounts that think it's terrible. There's a lot of people that are very, very passionate about this ride. So today I'm going to be looking into what I like about the ride, what I don't like about the ride, and just my general thoughts about it. I'm not quite as passionate about this ride as other people are. I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with it, but do I love it? No. If you have not been on Runaway Railway, there will be spoilers for the ride in this video. So if you don't mind getting the ride just a little bit spoiled, that's fine. You can keep watching. I'm not gonna ruin everything, but if you would like to ride it first and you want to go in completely blind, then go ahead and click off. I won't get upset. I don't know how I would even know that, but you know, it's fine, okay? I don't care. So first, I'm going to start out with things that I don't like so much about Runaway Railway. The first thing, which I kind of already mentioned, it replaced the Great Movie Ride. The Great Movie Ride was one of my favorite rides at Hollywood Studios. Every time I would visit the park, I would ride the ride. It was so fun, so good, and I'll have to make a whole separate video about the Great Movie Ride because I just loved it so much. It's kind of impossible not to compare it to the Great Movie Ride because it replaced such an iconic attraction, and I try not to do that. I tried to give it, you know, my open mind, but in comparing the ride to the Great Movie Ride, I kind of don't think it lives up to it. I think the Great Movie Ride was a better attraction, so that's kind of a negative for me in Runaway Railway's book. Branching off of the Great Movie Ride thing also is the fact that there's plenty of available space surrounding Hollywood Studios, and there's plenty of other attractions that could have been replaced that people would not have been upset about. Looking in the area by the Little Mermaid show and the Disney Junior show, the Star Wars launch bay would have been an excellent place. Galaxy's Edge has its own land. Star Wars launch bay is not a necessity. I think Runaway Railway could have gone in the animation courtyard, and that would have worked perfectly with the theming of that area. I think it would have worked so well, and then we could have kept the Great Movie Ride, kept that Hollywood aesthetic to the front of the park, and also had Runaway Railway in the back with all of the animation stuff. That would have also brought some much needed love and traffic to that area of the park because it's usually a bit quieter, I've found. There's also the issue of replacing a ride with another ride at Hollywood Studios because that park doesn't have a lot of rides, and the rides that it does have are all considered e-ticket attractions, the big name attractions. So they all have long lines because everybody's going to the e-tickets, but they're all e-tickets except for, I think, Star Tours, that's it. And Alien Swirling Saucers, I guess. So creating more rides at this park, spreading out the crowds just a little bit, especially bringing them away from Toy Story and Star Wars just a bit, I think could have dispersed the crowds a bit better and made Hollywood Studios a more enjoyable park to visit, because I know personally I don't visit Hollywood Studios a lot just because it's so crowded all the time. Even with the reduced capacity that they have right now, it's still crazy. Last time I was there, I waited an hour for everything that I did, and that's fine. It's Disney World. You have to go in expecting to wait for things, but you pretty much either have to wait an hour for everything that you do or just don't ride anything, and then while they don't have the shows running, there's just nothing to do at Hollywood Studios. So I don't go there very much just because why would I go? But besides that, just looking at the ride on its own, there are a few things that I just don't like about it from a pure standpoint of I wouldn't like it in any ride, regardless of what it replaced. The first is the screen faces on the animatronics. I despise screen faces on animatronics. And again, that's a topic that I'll have to make a whole separate video on, but I just don't like them. They look so tacky, they look so cheap, they're so bright in comparison to the rest of the face. And on this ride, Mickey and Minnie look like little balloons, and I do not like them at all. And to be honest, in this ride specifically, their faces make me a bit uncomfortable. I do not like them, and if you like them, that's fine, that's your opinion, but I still am not a huge fan of these faces. Another problem that I had with the attraction as a whole was that the vehicles' movements weren't exactly exciting for the most part. I love the trackless ride systems. I think they're super fun, super cool, and I think for all of the dark rides going forward, Disney should use the trackless system. I think it's fantastic. I think it makes the rides 10 times more fun, but some of the movements I think could have programmed a bit better. My top example for this is in the waterfall scene. You go into a little room and your vehicle's supposed to go over a little waterfall and you go underwater and stuff. When you're falling over the waterfall, it does not even simulate falling. You're just sitting there watching a screen that's trying to make it look like you're going over a waterfall, and you don't feel it. I think it would be cool if they had it shake maybe, or do something. Even if it didn't feel exactly like falling, it's better than nothing. The last thing that I will say is that this ride does not feel like an e-ticket attraction to me. Based on the ride, I don't think that it's worth the lines that an e-ticket attraction would get. When you look at the others, especially in Hollywood Studios, you've got Tower of Terror, which is a fantastic attraction, Rock and Roller Coaster, another great ride, and then you have Rise of the Resistance, a fantastic, probably the best ride at Disney World, just objectively. And then you just have Runaway Railway. You know, the little dark ride with projections on the walls. I'm not a big fan of projections in general or screens on rides. I think that they can be used effectively, and I don't think that they should get gone altogether like, absolutely not. Screens have their place in attractions, and I think that there can be a good blending of the screens and the practical effects, but this ride stepped over the line a bit for me. I think it had just a little bit too much projections for my personal taste. I think that the screens and the projections in this ride were done a bit more tastefully than some other rides. I'm glad that it wasn't a simulator, because there's too many simulator rides. I don't think that Runaway Railway is worth the long lines that it has. I think an hour max, and that would be pushing it for me personally. But when you look at the wait times on the My Disney Experience app, it's usually more than an hour. It'll be 90 minutes on a regular Tuesday. And Hollywood Studios is usually more crowded than the other parks. It reaches capacity almost every day, especially because of Rise of the Resistance and Toy Story Land. I get the appeal to the park, and I understand that it is usually more crowded than the other parks because there are no reservations available. Okay, now that I've given my negative thoughts, I'm gonna move on to what I love about Runaway Railway. I think it is absolutely adorable. I love the story, I love the theming. When this ride was first announced and people were talking about it, people were discussing that Mickey and Friends had never had a ride before. And I didn't really think about it. To be honest, I didn't really care. Like, Mickey's in the shows, I don't need a ride. But honestly, the ride is super fun. Mickey absolutely deserves his own ride. So yes, give me Mickey. The projections that they do have in the ride can be super immersive at times, and I think that they're super fun and creative. Again, I'm gonna reference the waterfall scene just because it sticks out in my head, but when you come in and it's like the jungle and then you go over the waterfall and then you come back out and you're completely underwater and the scene just completely changed while you were there, that's so cool to me. That is such a cool and fun effect that I want in other rides. It's a fun, feel-good ride. You're not gonna get off of this ride just being like, oh, I didn't like that. It's good for people of all ages. It's fun for the whole family. Everybody can ride this ride and just get off with a smile on their faces. And I love that, especially because of the theme song. The song for the ride is so fun. It's so catchy. I put it in my driving playlist, and every time it comes on while I'm driving, I'm like, yeah. The Daisy scene with the dancing is probably my favorite scene on the ride. I love Daisy. She's a sassy queen, and that Daisy animatronic is for sure the best animatronic in the ride. I love that scene. I love the animatronic. Pre-COVID, the pre-show. I was lucky enough to ride this ride before the park shut down in March, and I think that the pre-show is one of the best aspects of this ride, and I can't wait until they bring it back. The way that the screen lifts up, I did not expect. I did not see it coming at all. I remember the first time my mind was blown. I didn't even know how they did it. Next is Chubby, my favorite. I love Chubby. I cannot stress how much I love Chubby. He's so cute, and I just want to hug him and squeeze him. So I literally bought Chubby, and I have no regrets. And like if you squeeze his little tummy, he flaps his wings. I love him. He dances. He's just the cutest little thing, and I love him so much. I know he was only created to sell merchandise, but I do not care. I love him with my whole heart. Any piece of Chubby merchandise that they sell, I will be buying. Which brings me to my next point, which is the merchandise for Runaway Railway. It's super great. And I want other rides to have the amount of merchandise that this ride has. Give me more Spaceship Earth merchandise, please. But Runaway Railway has some of the best merchandise for any individual original ride that I've seen, and I love it. The little goofy conductor hats, the fact that they had a whole wishable set. I love wishables, so I'm kind of biased there. But I love Runaway Railway's merchandise, and I want them to give more original rides more merchandise. So in conclusion, is this ride the best? No. Would I trade it in an instant to get the Great Movie Ride back? Yes. But is it a fun time? Is it worth riding? Absolutely. I think it's a worthy addition to the park. I still miss the Great Movie Ride, but I enjoy Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for what it is, and I like riding it. I know my opinion is a little bit in the middle. Like I said before, I'm not super passionate either way about this ride, so if you are super passionate, let me know. Tell me what it is in the comments section. If you like the video, just share it with a friend. That's really the best thing I could ask for. Thanks for listening to me rant about Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for however long this video is. Let me know if you want any more specific ride commentary videos. If you have any ride suggestions, just leave them below, I guess. I'll check them out. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep talking about whatever I want. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!